Hello my frugal friends, welcome back to our place. Today I'm going to jump in and make two of our favorite muffin recipes, and we really like these ones because they actually have no sugar in them. Now I know healthy can be a bit of a subjective term. It really depends on what you think is healthy, but for our family, when we have a little bit of a treat, one of the things that we like to stay away from is a lot of extra added sugar. Now I'm not saying that sugar is a bad thing and we need to stay away from it, and we can get into the argument that honey and maple syrup and fruit have sugar and all the rest of it. That's not what we're talking about. What I'm talking about is good old-fashioned white table sugar, and just some ways that we can maybe cut that back in our diet and still enjoy the foods that we are eating. So today we're going to make some of our favorite chocolate chip banana breakfast muffins, and there may be a sneaky veggie in there that people don't realize a part of the recipe, but it is, and it's awesome. And we're also going to make our favorite blueberry chia protein muffins. Both of these muffin recipes are great for snacks, but we also like to have them as ready to go breakfast options. So on those days that you're in a bit of a pinch, you can grab these out of the fridge or the freezer. Both of these freeze really well. Stick them in the microwave, warm them up, and they are good to go. So without further ado, why don't we jump in and get cooking? All right, we're going to start off by making some Choc banana breakfast muffins. I'm going to pop the recipe up on the screen right now, so if you guys would like to screenshot that, it'll be nice and easy. But basically what we're going to need is some super ripe bananas, which is why I'm making them today. As you see, these guys here really need using up. So I've got 2 bananas. This is going to make about 12 standard size muffins, which is going to last us for a couple of days. Now just to talk you guys through some of the ingredients that I have here, because we do have some swaps. You don't need all of this sort of stuff. There are a couple of substitutes here that you guys can throw in. So the basic recipe does start with some chia seeds, and you're going to need to soak those in 1/4 cup of water, which is not shown. You're also going to need some oats, which you can see at the back. The original recipe calls for oat flour. I just use quick oats and it works perfectly fine. It's a little bit more texture in it, but I quite like that. You also want some self-raising flour. Now you can use standard flour, you can use gluten-free flour, you can use plain flour if you want to. You are going to need to throw in a little bit of baking powder, so if you use plain flour, double the amount of baking powder that you're going to put in. Speaking of baking powder, I don't have any, but you can make your own by using some bicarb soda and some cream of tartare. It is a 2-to-1 ratio, so 1 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon, and that'll give you a baking powder consistency, because baking powder is different to baking soda. Anyways, so that's a sub that I'm putting in today. Normally I just use baking powder, but I'm completely out, so this is what happens. Milk as well, I'm using oat milk. You can use non-dairy milk, or you can use just normal old dairy milk. It's going to work fine. So you don't have to have oat milk or anything fancy like that. That's just what I'm using here today. And I want a couple of eggs, a sweetener. You can use maple syrup or honey. They both work really well. I happen to like honey with bananas, so we are going to use the honey today, but like I said, you can sub either way there. That's going to work as well. I'm going to throw in some chocolate chips. Now if you wanted to keep these really healthy, you could go with the cacao nibs, but we're just going to throw in some dark chocolate chips because there's no other sugar here, as you can see. The other thing that you might want to throw in as well is a little bit of vanilla essence, or if you don't have any of that lying around, then cinnamon works as well. You're just going to want a teaspoon of either cinnamon, or your vanilla essence, and that's just going to give a little bit more flavor to the batter. But that's pretty much it, except for this little sneaky ingredient here. This recipe does call for 2 grated zucchini, and we're actually getting a little bit of vegetables in with our breakfast muffins, which makes these pretty good. So why don't we jump in and get cooking? So what we're going to want to do to start off with is to combine our chia seeds in some water, and we're just going to let those sit aside for a couple of minutes. That's going to let the chia seeds gel up. They're going to absorb the water and turn into a bit more of a gel consistency. So while those are sitting aside, combine the bananas. You sort of want to roughly mash those, the eggs, the milk, and the either maple syrup or the honey. So today we're using the honey. And you're going to want to throw in those zucchinis. If you are using fresh grated zucchini, just pop those in, but because I'm using frozen zucchini, I did throw those in the microwave to defrost those first. In a separate bowl, combine your oats, the flour, and your baking powder, and mix those together really well. Now you're going to want to combine your wet ingredients and your dry ingredients. You're going to want to mix these gently but well. And once you're halfway mixed, throw in your chocolate chips and the chia seeds that have been soaking. Give these a quick stir together so that they're just combined, and then divide those into your muffin tins. I'm going to bake these at 180 degrees Celsius, or about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, I think. Maybe double check that, but definitely 180 degrees Celsius for about 25 to 30 minutes until they are cooked through. All right, next up we are making some blueberry chia protein muffins. I'm going to pop the recipe up on the screen right now, so if you'd like to screenshot that one, it's going to make cooking a little bit easier. This recipe does come from it's an adaptation of the Tone It Up blueberry chia muffins, and it does have protein powder in it, and today we will be putting protein powder in ours because that's how we like it. If you don't want to use protein powder, or if you don't have protein powder, then don't worry. I would sub in probably a tablespoon of vanilla essence to get the vanilla flavor. We are using vanilla protein powder here today. And just leave the protein powder out. You might have to check your batter and see if it needs a little bit extra moisture or if it's too wet or something like that, because I've always made it with protein powder. Speaking of protein powder, this is not sponsored or anything like that. We just like the Venom protein powder. We've been using this for years. It's always been really good. I will leave a link down below to the company if you'd like to check them out yourselves. But they're really good product, excellent service, and I think a pretty good price. So that's just my little 2 cents on the protein powder. You could use any protein powder brand that you want. It doesn't have to be this one. This is just the one that we use. So with that out of the way, we're going to need some self-raising flour and some oats and a little bit of baking powder. Remember, I'm out of baking powder, so we're substituting and we're making our own with a little bit of bicarb and some cream of tartar, not tartare. That's the stuff you put on your fish. Anyways, woo. We're also going to pop in some chia seeds. Now, chia seeds are also a great source of protein. So I enjoy using these in a few different recipes. It's another way to get some protein into our diet. If you don't want to use the chia seeds, I think you can omit them in these 2 recipes, but I haven't done that because I like to use them. It is going to require a sweetener. And again, you could substitute in honey if you don't have maple syrup. the original recipe calls for maple syrup, and we have some, and I used honey in the other recipe. So we are going to use maple syrup today, but like I said, you could substitute honey if you wanted to. It also calls for a little bit of ground cinnamon, so you're going to want to chuck some of those in. Blueberries, because it is a blueberry chia muffin, but I have substituted in raspberries. I've also used frozen mixed berries. It all works, and if you just want to change things up a little bit and go with a different frozen berry, then I would have a go. So far it's worked with everything that I've substituted in, so that's been really good. Milk, again, I will be using the oat milk. You can use any milk that you want, so any dairy milk. It can be full cream, skim, light, or if you would prefer to use a non-dairy milk, oat, coconut, almond, they all work. So sub in whatever milk you want, and you're going to want some oil. Now, this recipe calls for coconut oil that is melted. If you don't have coconut oil on hand, then you could just substitute in some olive oil. Hopefully you have some of that around, but it's just an oil to help the muffins not be too dry. You're going to chuck a couple of eggs in there as well, but there's another substitute for you. Now we have the coconut oil, so we'll use that today, but I have substituted the olive oil in the past and it has turned out just fine. So that is one of the things I will say about cooking and recipes. Learn where you can substitute and the things that will work. You don't always have to have everything on hand. Oftentimes you can make do with things that you might already have in your pantry, particularly if you understand how some of the elements work in a recipe. But let's get started on these guys. What we're going to want to do is start with our dry ingredients. In a large bowl, we're going to add our oat flour, the self-raising flour, the protein powder, and the baking powder, which remember we're making today from bicarb soda and cream of tartar, because I am completely out of baking powder. And I'm going to pop the cinnamon in here now as well, and the chia seeds, and I'm going to just mix those all together so that they're combined well. And in a separate bowl, I'm going to melt the coconut oil and then mix in the maple syrup, the 2 eggs, the milk, and combine those well. Now what I want to do is pour our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients. I'm going to mix those until they're about half mixed, and then I'm going to add our frozen blueberries. I don't defrost them, they're going to go in frozen, and mix those well until they're well combined but not over mixed. And again, I'm going to divide those between our 12 muffin cups. They do make about 12 medium-sized muffins, which is really good. That'll get us through another couple of days, and both of these recipes freeze really well as well. So if you wanted to do a bulk batch like I am today, you can pop some of these in the freezer and that's going to work great. And all we want to do with these guys is, again, in a preheated oven, 180 degrees Celsius, or about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to pop these guys in and cook them for 25 to 30 minutes or until they are cooked. All right, well, there you have it. If you do try either of today's recipes, I would love to hear from you either in the comments, or if you happen to snap a pic of your muffins, then tag me over on Instagram as well. You can find me over there at Nikki Beale, or on Facebook. Hey, have you joined our Facebook group? If not, why don't you come over, hang out with us over in the Frugabundant community on Facebook, and you can let us know all about your muffins over there as well. We would love for you guys to come in and join in all of the fun. Doesn't matter where you catch us, just come and say g'day. And as always, if you did enjoy today's video, if you could please give it a thumbs up. I really do appreciate that. It lets me know the kind of content you guys are enjoying and what you would like to see more of. And if you would like to see more videos like this, then I do hope you consider hitting that little subscribe button down below. It is the best way to be notified when my new videos come out. Well, I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. I hope you're having a great weekend, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Until then, take care, my friends. Bye.